How to navigate the returns dashboard. 1. Go to the GST Common Portal homepage by accessing the link given below, https www.gst.gov.in/. 2. Go to the user login page and enter your valid credentials and click on the login page. 3. Your dashboard will appear after login. Go to the Services tab, click on Returns Dashboard to proceed further. 4. The File Returns page will appear. Select the financial year in the return filing period, which is the month for which the taxpayer would like to file the return, and then click on Search option to proceed accordingly. 5. In order to view the dashboard, GST Portal detects the taxpayer's registration type and shows relevant options accordingly. Also, the previously filed returns will be visible for viewing, but the same will not be editable. Note: taxpayers shall be able to view the tiles tabs of the following: A. GSTR1, Outward Supplies made by the taxpayer. It is the statement of outward supplies made by you in a month. The same is required to be filed by the 10th of the subsequent month. It contains the details of the invoices of the supplies made to the registered taxpayers, export invoices and interstate supplies to the consumers, whether invoice value is of more than rupees 2.5 lakhs, which is captured along with the self-assessed liabilities. The tax amount will be added to the electronic liability register on filing GSTR3. Subsequently, the summary values of other type of supplies like sales to consumers, advance received and adjusted, invoice issue details and HSNY summary also needs to be furnished while filing GSTR1. Note: even all exempt or non-GST supplies and exports need to be reported in GSTR1, even if no tax is applicable on such supplies. Prepare button. Prepare button allows preparing the return online. Prepare offline button. This button allows you uploading GSTR1 data from the offline utility. B. GSTR1A. Creation and submission of addendum to GSTR1. The GST Common Portal also includes GSTR1A, which is addendum to GSTR1. It is auto-populated from GSTR2 and GSTR4 uploaded by the supplier. GSTR1A gets created if you are recipient add the details of missing invoices or modifies the details of invoices reported by the supplier. The supplier has to accept/reject invoice-wise items populated in GSTR1A and amend the already filed GSTR1, as necessary. Click on the Prepare Online button if you require to prepare the return by making entries on the GST portal. C. GSTR2. Inward supplies received by the taxpayer. It is the statement of your inward supplies received by taxpayer, which is prepared on the basis of the auto-drafted from the supplier's filed returns. The taxpayers claim eligible input tax credit in this return, and the same needs to filed by the 15th of the subsequent month. D. GSTR2A. Auto-drafted details. GSTR2A is auto-populated version of GSTR2. It contains the details of the invoices, IST, TDS, TCS, as they were originally uploaded by your suppliers or the respective related counterparties in their GSTR 1, 5, 7, or 8. GSTR 3, Monthly Return. It is the consolidated monthly return, which gets auto-populated based on the final values of the GSTR 1 and GSTR 2 after the same are respectively filed. This return shows the self-assessed liabilities and self-assessed credits in Part A and has the facility to discharge the liabilities using input tax credit as well as available cash in respective ledgers in Part B. The interest table in GSTR 3 will have few columns which will be editable and would accept the user's input. GSTR 3B, Monthly Return. All normal taxpayers and casual taxpayers are required to file the GSTR 3B, whenever there is an extension of the due dates of filing with respect to the forms GSTR 1 and GSTR 2. Basically, GSTR 3B is a summarized return and the purpose of the same is for the taxpayers to declare the summary of their liabilities for the tax period and get discharge of them accordingly. GSTR 4, Quarterly Return for Registered Person Opting for Composition Levy. GSTR 4 is a consolidated form in which the details of purchases and supplies are filed. To file such a return is required only for the businesses having GSTIN that are enrolled under the GST composition. Dealers enrolled under the GST composition scheme file one GST return every 3 months instead of 3 GST returns every month. GSTR 5, Return to be filed by foreign non-resident taxpayer. If a taxpayer is registered as non-resident foreign taxpayer for a short duration, then you will see the tile of GSTR 5 return only. Compounding taxpayers will see only the GSTR 4 and GSTR 4A return in which they have to file the details of the inward supplies and consolidated turnover on which they have to pay the liabilities. Taxpayers who deduct TDS or TCS will see the tiles. GSTR 6, Return for Input Service Distributor. Taxpayers registered under the Input Service Distributor or the ISD category will only see the option to file GSTR 6 return, since other returns are not applicable to them. For filing GSTR 6, an ISD has to furnish the details of credit received and credit distributed to same PAN units. GSTR 7, this return is to be filed by the assessors who are required to deduct the TDS, tax deducted at source, under GST. GSTR 7 is to be filed by the registered taxpayers who deduct tax while making payments to vendor suppliers towards the inward supplies received. GSTR 7 must contain the details of those transactions where tax was deducted by the deductor at source along with the complete details of his/her suppliers. GSTR 8, Creation and Submission of Periodic TCS Return. This return is to be filed by the e-commerce operators who are required to deduct TCS, tax collected at source, under GST. GSTR 8 contains the details of supplies affected through the e-commerce platform and amount of TCS collected on such supplies. GSTR 9, Annual Return. The tile of Annual Return will be visible only after the completion of the financial year. However, you will be able to access it only if all the other returns have been filed successfully. It is the annual return which is to be filed by every taxpayer who files GSTR3. It is filed for the current financial year by December 31st of the next financial year.